Hi, I'm Abby from Ratings.com. We've just tested a bunch of Samsung's OLEDs, and now we're switching brands to LG, starting with their high-end LG G4. Last year's LG G3 was an amazing TV that wowed with how bright it could get thanks to its MLA layer. The G4 still has the MLA layer, and this time it's also on the 83-inch model. What changed this year is the addition of a new 97-inch size. So, is the G4 as impressive as last year's G3? Well, we've bought and tested the 65-inch model, and our results are valid for all other model sizes except the 97-inch one, as that one actually lacks the MLA layer. Well, without further ado, let's go. There are no two ways about it. The LG G4 is a great-looking TV. I mean, just look at it. Sure, it does look essentially the same as last year's LG G3, but why fix what isn't broken? The G4 has the same thin bezels with a completely flat side profile, so it sits flush when wall-mounted. The back of the TV has a clean and simple look, with recessed cutouts throughout that you can use for cable management. New this year on the G4 is the included stand, at least with the 55 and 65-inch models. The bigger 77, 83, and 97-inch panels all come with the typical G-series slim wall mount. You can still wall mount the smaller models, but they don't come with the included mount, so you'll have to buy it separately or buy a third-party one. As for the stand, it's made of metal and is quite sturdy, even if it's a bit on the smaller side. The TV wobbles a bit when pushed, but it recovers quickly. You can adjust the stand to two positions, a low position, which lifts the TV about 2.3 inches off the table, and a high position, pushing the TV about 4 inches from the table. Any soundbar will fit under the screen in its high position, while the lower one gives the TV a sleeker look. The TV has 4 full HDMI 2.1 bandwidth ports, and this year, they're all capable of up to 4K at 144 Hz. 2 of the HDMI ports, including the eARC port, face the side, and the other 2 face the bottom. The TV's eARC port passes through a ton of advanced audio formats, including DTS, which is a great option if you've got a wall of Blu-rays to watch. Otherwise, the TV has 3 USB ports, 1 digital optical audio out port, a LAN port, and an IR blaster connection. The TV also has an antenna connection, but this year LG dropped the ATSC 3.0 support, sticking with 1.0. The TV comes with the 2024 version of LG's WebOS interface. It works well and supports user profiles, so you can customize the homepage for different users. Sadly, sometimes the TV doesn't properly switch out of the Game Optimizer setting, even though the TV says it's not in Game Optimizer. But you're still locked out of the settings that are available in the other picture modes. To fix it, you need to enable Game Optimizer and then disable Auto Low Latency mode and VRR. Then, when you switch to another picture mode, it works fine. It doesn't happen often, and it likely happened to us because we were aggressively changing settings on the TV during testing, but it's still something to note. We also encountered another bug where you get a black screen on your TV if you've been changing resolutions and refresh rates frequently in a short period. The only fix is to unplug and plug the TV back in. This isn't unlikely to happen with real-world usage, but we encountered it during testing, probably because of our testing process. And guess what? The TV has ads. But here, you can actually remove some of them. The Home Settings menu has 2 settings, the Home Promotion and the Content Recommendation settings. Disabling those removes the top banner ads as well as suggested content from the home screen, which is nice as it gives your home screen a cleaner, less cluttered look. There's still no way to remove ads from the app page, though. The LG G4 uses the same magic remote from 2021, and it works quite well. It's one of the biggest remotes on any TV with a full numpad alongside the typical shortcut keys to popular streaming apps. Like LG's past remotes, you can also use it as a pointer, which is kinda nifty. The remote has an integrated microphone, and so does the TV, so you can use voice commands to change inputs, open apps, and perform searches within apps. With that out of the way, let's talk about picture quality. The LG G4 is an OLED, so it has remarkable contrast due to its nearly infinite contrast ratio. The TV displays very bright highlights next to perfect inky blacks, and it looks just fantastic in a dark room. Last year's LG G3 OLED was one of the brightest OLEDs we had ever tested due to its MLA layer, and this year's G4 continues the trend. It truly is very bright in HDR. What's more impressive is that it barely throttles under load, as its sustained brightness values with all window sizes are barely lower than its peaks. Very nice. Of course, its ABL significantly limits the brightness of bright screen-wide scenes in HDR compared to smaller highlights, as you can see behind me. But that's to be expected with OLEDs. What's even better is that the TV doesn't lose nearly as much brightness in game mode compared to last year's model. The TV has exceptional reflection handling, as its glossy screen finish significantly reduces the intensity of direct reflections. Combined with its HDR brightness, this TV can be placed in any room, no matter how many lights it has. If you watch SDR content, don't worry, the TV is plenty bright here too. Again, enough for any room. The TV's ABL isn't as aggressive in SDR, so you won't have to deal with excessive dimming when the screen displays bright content like a hockey game. So, too long, didn't listen? It's a bright TV. The viewing angle on this TV is incredibly wide, so the image is consistent when viewed from any angle. It's not technically perfect, but it's very close, and it's a perfect TV to host large parties with. At the time of this review, the LG G4 ties the superb Sony A95L as the most accurate OLED out of the box that we have ever reviewed. It's so accurate in SDR that even purists can forego calibrating this TV unless they seek absolute perfection. Sure, out of the box, the G4 does lean slightly warm, and very bright scenes are a bit too bright, but otherwise, it's right on target. The LG G4 has fantastic PQ EOTF tracking. Some shadows and midtones are slightly brighter than they should be, but the TV follows the curve very closely overall. With content mastered at 600 and 1000 nits, there's a sharp cutoff at the TV's peak brightness. But it doesn't really matter, as the TV is bright enough to display content mastered at those levels. With content mastered at 4000 nits, there's a gradual roll-off to preserve details and bright highlights. When it comes to colors, this is where the LG G4 slightly falters compared to its competition. Don't get us wrong, the G4 is a very colorful TV with outstanding coverage of the DCI-P3 color space and good coverage of the wider Rec 2020 color space. The TV also has impressive color volume helped by its high brightness levels, but compared to the QD OLEDs we've been reviewing, the QD OLEDs really take the crown for color. LG has truly upped their game when it comes to processing, and they're now firmly positioned behind Sony as having some of the best image processing on the market. Their low-quality content smoothing is truly excellent here, as there's no noticeable macro blocking in dark areas while preserving details very well. The TV is also great at sharpness processing when upscaling low-resolution content. Some fine details are hard to make out, but overall the details are clear enough. Of course, as is usual for OLEDs, there's stutter with low frame rate content, which is most noticeable during slow panning shots when watching movies, although not everyone notices stutter. If you're bothered by it, check out the cinematic movement preset in the true motion settings, which smooths out content without introducing too many artifacts or the soap opera effect. The TV deals with Judder very well. It automatically removes Judder from all sources when watching movies or shows that are in 24p, even when they're in a 60Hz signal, like when watching content from a cable box. You just need to ensure that the real cinema setting is enabled. Otherwise, the TV doesn't remove Judder. So that's pretty good to know. The LG G4 is an exceptional gaming TV. Its response time is almost instantaneous, leading to a very responsive gaming experience. Of course, because of the sample and hold nature of OLED tech, there's still some persistence blur when gaming at 60Hz, but you're not going to notice it. This TV also has incredibly low input lag in game mode, even when gaming at 60Hz. Although, as usual, it's at its lowest at 120 and 144 Hz. But if you're a retro gamer, the TV's input lag is higher when gaming in a 4:3 aspect ratio at 60Hz, so that's something to consider. This TV supports most common resolutions up to 4K at 144 Hz on all 4 of its HDMI ports, a first for LG, as their older OLEDs were limited to 120 Hz. It also supports Chroma 444, although input labels need to be set to PC first, and then you need to enable the 444 pass-through setting in the HDMI settings menu. The LG G4 is fully compatible with everything consoles offer, as it supports 120 Hz gaming at many resolutions, with full VRR support as well. It has auto low latency mode, automatically switching to game mode when it detects a console. It even supports Dolby Vision gaming on the Xbox consoles. Have we entered the era of good-sounding OLEDs? Because this TV sounds good, which is something we don't say very often. It has a well-balanced sound profile and even produces a little bit of bass. There's some audible distortion when you increase the TV's volume, but it's not too bad. So, should you buy this TV? If you're shopping for something at this price point, you should buy this TV. It's one of the best OLEDs we've ever tested, rivaling the 2023 Sony A95L. The G4 is one of the brightest OLEDs on the market with great image processing. Plus, LG improved its HDR Brightness algorithm so it doesn't lose too much brightness in game mode. It even supports 144Hz gaming this year, up from 120Hz during previous years. And finally, it passes through DTS advanced audio formats and supports Dolby Vision. The G4 just truly does it all. It stacks up well against the Sony A95L, although the Sony still has better image processing, and its QD OLED panel makes it more colorful overall than the LG. Still, outside of movie purists, the LG G4 is the better bet for most people, especially as it's often sold for a cheaper price than the Sony. If you're mainly interested in gaming or don't really care about features such as Dolby Vision support or advanced DTS audio formats, you might prefer the Samsung S90D. It's a very bright TV with a colorful QD OLED panel and has full 144Hz support on all 4 of its HDMI ports. It's also cheaper than the G4, so it's a good value pick for gamers. Well, that's all we have to say about the LG G4. If you want a more detailed write-up on the TV, check out our written review. The link is in the description below. Until next time, I'm Abby from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs. The TV has 4 full HDMI 2.1 bandwidth ports, and this year, they're all capable of up to 4K at a fun hertz level. 4K at fun.